All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Forget the sci-fi doom-mongering for a second, and honestly, let's tune out the endless industry hype too. Today, we're looking at some hard internal data straight from Anthropic in a piece called When AI Builds Itself. We're digging in to see if artificial intelligence is genuinely, measurably starting to put the gas pedal down on its own development. So, the absolutely crucial question we're investigating today is whether AI development has actually hit a tipping point. We hear endless speculation about 10 years from now, but what I want to know is what AI is doing to AI development right now, today. Are we measurably on the verge of machines building better machines? Okay, first things first, we got to define exactly what we're talking about here. Recursive self-improvement. This is the specific threshold Anthropic is tracking with their data. And we're not talking about an AI writing a clever poem. This is a theoretical loop where an AI system actually designs its own successor. That means progress is paced strictly by raw computer power and algorithmic efficiency, completely unconstrained by how fast a human can type or think. So here is our roadmap for the day. We're going to break down the recursive loop, take a view from the outside, climb the capability ladder, examine the final human bottleneck, and wrap up with 3 possible futures. All right, part 1, the recursive loop. To keep us firmly out of science fiction and focused on what we can actually measure, Anthropic uses this really brilliant framework. They split AI development into 2 distinct buckets. On the left, you've got the doing. That's the grind, writing the code, spinning up the infrastructure, running the complex experiments. Then on the right, you have the deciding. This is human research taste. It's choosing which problems actually matter, deciding which results you can trust, and recognizing when an approach is just a total dead end. The core dynamic happening right now is that AI is increasingly taking over the automated doing, but humans, we still firmly hold the deciding. Moving on to part 2, the view from outside. What's wild is that before we even peek inside the restricted AI labs, we can verify this accelerating automation in public benchmarks. Like, anyone can check this. Looking at data from Metra, which tracks autonomous AI task completion, the capability horizon is doubling roughly every 4 months. Just to put that into perspective, back in March 2024, Claude Opus 3 could handle software tasks that took humans about 4 minutes to complete. Just a year later, Claude Sonnet 3.7 was knocking out hour-and-a-half tasks. And by March 2026, Claude Opus 4.6 was autonomously completing 12-hour tasks. If that trend holds, we're looking at complex, week-long autonomous tasks coming into range next. Which brings us to part 3, climbing the capability ladder. Let's move away from the public stuff and actually look at Anthropic's internal numbers to see how AI is building itself from the inside. Think of it like a corporate promotion track. AI starts at the bottom rung as a level 1 junior executor. You give it a highly specific task like fix the export button, and it just does it. Level 2 is the experienced designer. You hand it a broader goal and it figures out the approach. And level 3 is the senior decider. That's the leader figuring out what the team should even be building next quarter. Anthropic's internal data shows their AI, Claude, rapidly climbing these exact rungs. And at that bottom rung, the junior executor level, the numbers are absolutely staggering. As of May 2026, a massive 80% of the code merged into Anthropic's own codebase was authored by Claude. 80%. Just 15 months prior, that number was in the low single digits. The authorship of a Frontier Lab's own underlying code has completely flipped in a little over a year. Because of this, individual productivity has completely transformed. The daily volume of code merged by a typical Anthropic engineer saw an 8x jump in the second quarter of 2026, compared to their average from 2021 to 2024. The human engineer is basically just directing and reviewing now, while Claude types out the vast majority of the actual code. Now hold on, we need to be honest brokers here. Anthropic is the first to admit this 8x figure almost certainly overstates true productivity. Measuring engineering output strictly by lines of code is kind of like measuring the quality of an airplane by how much it weighs, right? It measures quantity, not necessarily quality. But still, even with that caveat, it's a massive flashing signal that the doing part of engineering is being profoundly automated. But let's step up the ladder. From just writing basic code to executing real experiments, the acceleration gets even more extreme. Anthropic ran a test where they asked their models to optimize complex training code to run as fast as possible. For context, a highly skilled human engineer needs about 4 to 8 hours of intense, focused work just to hit a 4x speedup on this task. In May 2025, Claude Opus 4 achieved a 3x speedup. Helpful, for sure, but still human scale. But then, by April 2026, the Claude Mythos preview hit a jaw-dropping, superhuman 52x speedup. Claude went from being a helpful assistant to just completely eclipsing human capability on this specific execution task in under a year. All right, part 4, the final human bottleneck. So execution is happening at blinding speeds. But what happens when we reach that hardest task at the very top of the ladder, proposing original ideas? In April 2026, Anthropic set up a race. They handed Claude-powered agents a massive, open-ended AI safety problem. Over 800 hours and about 18 grand in compute, these autonomous agents were out there proposing hypotheses, testing them, and sharing findings with each other, basically acting as a digital research team. And they managed to recover an incredible 97% of the research gap. For comparison, 2 human researchers working together for a week, they recovered only about 23%. But, and this is a really vital asterisk here, this is not a machine doing independent research from a blank page. The humans still chose the problem. The humans wrote the scoring rubric. The humans defined exactly what winning meant. The AI agents are superb inside the frame, but the frame itself, the boundary keeping it all aligned, that is still 100% human. It perfectly captures that old Thomas Edison quote, right? Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. AI is effectively automating the 99% perspiration, the scaling, the testing, the fixing. But that leaves the 1% inspiration, our human research taste, as the ultimate choke point. Actually, if you want the computer science term for this, it's Amdahl's law. It states that the overall pace of a system is strictly capped by whatever part of that system hasn't sped up. Right now, that hard cap is us. It's human review and direction setting. And that leads us to part 5, 3 possible futures. So what happens if that final human bottleneck, that 1% inspiration, eventually falls to automation too? Anthropic refuses to offer some hyped-up single prediction. Instead, they honestly lay out 3 distinct data-driven futures. First is the S-curve. This is where the trend just stalls out as we hit a ceiling, but current capabilities diffuse everywhere. Imagine AI agents routinely finding tens of thousands of vulnerabilities in global cyber systems overnight. Second is compounding efficiency. This is where human deciders sit atop vast pyramids of AI agents. Tiny teams of researchers could do the work of thousands, massively accelerating scientific discovery. And third is the big one, full recursive self-improvement. This is where AI entirely refines its own successors, paced solely by available compute. But here's the reality check. Even in that most extreme full recursive scenario, we have a profound collision. An accelerating intelligence still collides with a human world that sets its own much slower pace. Think about it. An AI running at the speed of compute still cannot learn what a new drug does to a human body over decades of use. It can't hold elections faster than a constitution allows. The virtual lab upstream might be lightning fast, but life downstream, it still moves at our speed. Because of this inevitable collision between machine speed and human bottlenecks, Anthropic actually ends their paper with a pragmatic policy plea, not a product pitch. They argue we desperately need to develop verifiable pause infrastructure, kind of like the verification regimes built for old nuclear treaties. We need the technical ability to mathematically prove that labs have halted development. We have to have this infrastructure in place so that a coordinated global pause is actually a viable option, rather than just unilateral self-sabotage. Ultimately, this explainer leaves us with a pretty heavy question to chew on. The capability curve of AI building itself hasn't bent yet. It literally just keeps going up. So are our institutions actually prepared to manage this? Are we going to build the necessary brakes and the global trust required to actually pull them before we find ourselves in a vehicle moving entirely too fast to control? That is the defining question of our time. And honestly, the time to start answering it is right now.